Hi, my name is Reed Silverne. The name of this show is Fed Pride. The reason it's called Fed Pride is because I'm a federal worker, retired and proud of it. This particular show is on February 18th, and as a result, it will be shown for probably 3 weeks, in which case about anything I say is going to be extremely obsolete by the time you see it. So I am going to talk about general things that are going to be just as obscure and obsolete in 3 weeks as they are today. So that's my system, that's my theory. I'm going to do a spin of the earth, and I'm going to put the cursor right on Arizona, our state. I've been talking about our state a lot lately. Also, I want to say that this is live to tape. Live to tape means that I am being actually taped live, and what you're going to see is what is actually happening. Notice I'm fixing my shirt a little bit. What is actually happening right now on the February 18th. And if I fall off the chair or mess up the controls, which I often do, you will see it when this shows. So that's just part of the delightful non-professionalism of Fed Pride, my show. Today I'm going to talk about an issue that's very close to my heart because it's very close to probably the most important thing I have and the most valuable thing I have, and that is my American citizenship. I am an American citizen. Up to now, nobody can take that away from me. Even if I have a problem, even if I, God forbid, committed a felony, certain of my rights, like the right to vote in a certain states, can be taken away, but my citizenship will not and cannot. I am not a citizen because of my pedigree. And I want to make that very, very clear. I'm not a citizen because my parents were citizens, and they were. I'm not a citizen because my grandparents are citizens. I'm not a citizen because my ancestors came on the Mayflower. I'm not a citizen because I'm a Native American, which I am not. I am a citizen because I was born on the soil of the United States. People call that birthright citizenship, and it should have a better name. And that name, and I will refer to it from now on, is constitutional citizenship. What's the advantage of constitutional citizenship? The advantage is there is no bureaucrat that's involved in declaring somebody a citizen. They're either born on the soil of the United States or they are not. There are some rules about American citizens born overseas, especially if they're under a status of forces agreement. I know many people that were, and they had to have some kind of naturalization. However, the Constitution is very, very clear. And what I'm going to do is I am going to mess around with a bunch of pages, and I'm going to find where I have printed out the 14th Amendment of the Constitution. Where did the 14th Amendment come from? The 14th Amendment came out of the ruins of the Civil War. At the end of the Civil War, in fact, during the end of the Civil War, they passed the 13th Amendment, which is slavery was abolished, and it was ratified December of 1865. And that particular one said neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for a crime whereof a party has been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. That was the 13th Amendment, but it was not enough. And it was not enough because all these freed slaves did not have a specific status. And every state decided what the status of their citizens were. Some had citizens were only people that owned property. In other states, they were only whites. In other states, they were had to have at least one white parent, a white mother. In other states, they had to have at least a white father, in which case mulattoes or half-castes were white. Basically, before 1868, America was a caste society with different levels of citizens and different levels of citizenship, mostly set out by the state. And unfortunately, the basis for most declarations of citizenship and most citizenship laws within the United States were almost exclusively based on race and had created racial castes, some of which were full citizens, some of which were not. Even within the whites, some states required property ownership, so that even among the whites, there were more than one caste. People that could vote, people that couldn't vote, people that had some citizenship rights, and people that had others. Throughout the whole thing, they had to settle after the Civil War. Now, take into account that the 14th Amendment was written by the radical Republicans. Radical Republicans, for the most part, were abolitionists, and they were equalitarians. They were radicals, and they had won the Civil War. The southern states were not allowed to they were not allowed to have anybody elected to Congress who had been in rebellion against the United States of America. So, and some states did not even participate in Congress at that point because they had not been reintegrated officially into the United States. They were still under federal occupation. So 1868 is a very interesting time, still controlled by the radical Republicans, and the southern states were under what we called Reconstruction. Of course, Reconstruction has gotten a very bad name, mostly because of carpetbaggers and people taking over state governments that were less than honorable, let's put it that way. But also, when the Southerners basically got their citizenship back, got control of their states back, there was a wave of Southern patriotism throughout the southern states of the United States after 1876 or 1877, which I guess is the end of Reconstruction. And anybody who's visited the Civil War memorials, and I have, would note that places where there was a Southern victory have a big giant federal visitor center, like Kennesaw Mountain around Chattanooga, the one battle that the Southerners won, or at least checked the North. And then there's just monuments and things like that in places like Lookout Mountain, where the North won battles. So there are a very, very interesting combination of events, and basically history was rewritten, sometimes rightly and sometimes wrongly, to basically give the impression that Reconstruction was really an injustice done to the Southerners. And part of that Reconstruction was allowing freedmen and blacks and people of other races, creeds, and colors to vote as equals. And that was not taken away officially, partially because of the 14th Amendment, but it was taken away in actuality, and that was what was called the Jim Crow period that ended with the Voting Rights Act of 1965. So there was a whole period, and there was really Jim Crow supporting Supreme Courts that basically said there's such a thing as separate but equal, and so on and so forth, violating basically the 15th Amendment. So what does the 14th Amendment say? Why am I a citizen, and why are you a citizen? All of you who've been born, who are not naturalized, but have been born on the soil of the United States. Citizens without any bureaucrat verifying your parents' race, verifying your parents' citizenship papers, verifying your parents' citizenship. And of course, there are a lot of rural people, and let's face it, white rural people whose birth certificate is the front of a Bible. So are they citizens or are they not citizens? How do you prove that they're citizens or not? And that's a bunch of questions that was asked during the review in a committee for Arizona's state Senate birthright citizenship bill. And what do these bills say? Well, first of all, they say that there's going to be two types of birth certificates in Arizona, and that Arizona is going to have two types of children born in our soil. There are going to be children who are citizens. They're going to get one kind of birth certificate. And then there are going to be children who are not citizens, born supposedly of illegal aliens, but really of any woman or their husbands if they come, who don't bring the right paperwork and present it to the right bureaucrat to prove that they're citizens. So probably they're going to go the 1070 route, and a Arizona driver's license is going to prove your citizenship, even though you and I know that it proves absolutely nothing. That just about anybody can get an Arizona driver's license, whether they're citizens or not. They do that so that Arizona's the people that vote for Kavanaugh and Pierce and Brewer are not inconvenienced by it. But the fact of the matter is that birth, especially for single moms and so on and so forth, it's a difficult process, and a lot of them just don't show up at the hospital with all their paperwork. And if they don't, their children are not going to be citizens. That is the bottom line. That is what this law says. It's up to the mom or the dad, if the dad shows up and can prove his paternity, that she is a legal citizen, or that child will get the other birth certificate. And I think that's wrong. First of all, I think it's wrong for a couple reasons, but I think it's wrong for a very conservative reason. And I think there's a reason why the person that objected and shot it down in one of the committees to this law was a Republican. And the Republican's name was Mr. Driggs, and I don't have, let's see if I can find him, Adam Driggs. And Adam Driggs, to me, is a hero. He's a real conservative. Why is he real conservative? Because he doesn't want bureaucrats to decide who's a citizen and who is not. The great thing about constitutional citizenship, which is citizenship based on birth in our country, is that there is no bureaucrat involved. Somebody's either born in this country and therefore is a complete citizen, or they're not. Period. It doesn't have anything to do with their peerage. It doesn't have anything to do with their paperwork. It has to do with where they were born, and now, once they are born, who they are. So that is what they want to abolish. Why do they want to abolish it? Because there is a certain group, and that group is represented by a group called Federation for American Immigration Reform, or FAIR, who have been against, since their founding, the amendments, the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment. Why? Because it gives everybody equal due process, gives everybody equal citizenship, and they don't like it. They just don't like it. And that's the bottom line for these people. Are they conservatives? No, they're not. A conservative would be against bureaucrats being involved in something as important as taking away the citizenship of an American. They would be against it. There is no cause, there is no call, there is no possibility for a bureaucrat to go over someone's paperwork and say that child born on the soil of the United States is not a citizen. And I declare it so because I don't like their mother's paperwork, not the child's paperwork, the mother's paperwork. And of course, they're saying, well, this only applies to Mexicans. And they don't say it, but they're kind of winking and nod. But of course, that's not true. A law is a law. According to the 15th Amendment, neither slavery nor involuntary servitude except as a punishment for a crime, whereas the party has been duly convicted, shall exist. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Let's take the 15th Amendment. The right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be abridged or abridged by any state on account of race, creed, race, color, any previous condition of servitude. And the 14th Amendment, in another thing, says no state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges and immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, and property without due process of law, nor to deny to any person within its jurisdiction equal protection of the law. So that means that every mom, I don't care who it is, that mom can be a descendant of the Mayflower. Every mom is going to have to produce her paperwork before a bureaucrat appointed by the state of Arizona who works for Jan Brewer, and that bureaucrat's going to be able to say, your kid is denied his citizenship. It's not just Mexicans. It's not just illegal aliens, because nobody knows who's legal and who's illegal until you check their paperwork. It is every single mom. And if they bring their husbands along, their husbands as well. So every single mom is going to have to arrive at that hospital in labor with their citizenship papers. And if they don't, their kid is not going to be a citizen. And that is what they're proposing. And this guy Driggs said, well, what happens if a citizen of another state comes to Arizona? Will they be denied citizenship of the state of Arizona if they don't have their paperwork? If they don't have paperwork to the satisfaction of the bureaucrats appointed by Jan Brewer? Well, of course not. No, nobody. Even though the Constitution requires that every state recognize every other state and the citizens of every other state, that won't be true in Arizona. And that's why they're trying to pass another law, and a really silly one, which basically sets up compacts with other states to recognize two levels of citizenship. Of course, what happens if a person with that secondary citizenship, that minor, that citizenship, or that birth certificate said, you are born, according to the 14th Amendment, under the jurisdiction of the United States of America, within the states of the United States of America? What if they go to New Hampshire and New Hampshire stamps them as a citizen? Will they be allowed to be a citizen when they come back? Well, they better, because that is the Article 1 and 4 of the Constitution. They're required to. So the whole thing is ridiculous. It's ridiculous down deep, but even more so are the implications of it. Let's say these laws are passed, and now birthright citizenship is no longer part of our system. Bureaucrats now decide. This is a science fiction thing. The Supreme Court doesn't say anything, and all these rules pass here in Arizona. And there are two different levels of birth certificates. And we have a caste of non-citizens who are born on the soil of the United States. By the way, what does it say about it? All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of the citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, process, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction equal protection of the laws. The fact of the matter is that everybody who's resident in this state, legal or illegal, is under the jurisdiction of the state. If they're not under the jurisdiction of the state, then they are under the jurisdiction of some other country, and they can't be arrested. That's called diplomatic immunity. And I'm not about to grant all illegal aliens diplomatic immunity. Now, the law that's being proposed over here, it's being proposed by FAIR, a notorious organization whose founder tried to guarantee a white, literally, a white majority, permanent majority in the United States. And the guy's name was Taunton. I won't go into that right now. However, what they had over here and what they're trying to do is to create two levels of citizenship. And if there are two levels of citizenship, in fact, I think I'm about to find, hopefully, the wording within the document. Because what they did is they rewrote the actual words of the 14th Amendment. And here is what this proposed law says. That basically says a child whose parents don't even if their parents are descendants of the Mayflower, who don't present citizenship papers to the satisfaction of state bureaucrats appointed by Governor Jan Brewer. Person is lawfully domiciled. For the purpose of this section, subject to the jurisdiction of the United States, has the meaning is that it bears in Section 1 of the 14th Amendment, which it doesn't, namely that a person is a child of at least one parent who owes no allegiance to any foreign sovereignty, or a child without citizenship or nationality in a foreign country. Well, no child is a citizen of a foreign country if they're born on this soil. They're a citizen of the United States. For the purpose of this section, the person owes no allegiance to any foreign sovereignty, is a citizen, United States citizen or national, or an immigrant according to the privilege of residing permanently in the United States, or a person without citizenship. Well, first of all, is that what the 14th Amendment says? No, it doesn't. It says a person born and naturalized in the United States is subject to the jurisdiction thereof. It doesn't say anything about the person's loyalty or the parents of the person's loyalty, which is what they're getting at, the loyalty of the parent. As a matter of fact, there was discussion during the debate on the 14th Amendment, which very, very specifically said that Asians, subject to the jurisdiction or subject to the sovereignty, sovereign citizens of China or Japan, would be citizens of the United States in this soil under the 14th Amendment. Well, their counter-argument is that they didn't have illegal aliens in 1868. Well, in 1898, after they had the Chinese Exclusion Act, which I believe dates back to the 1870s, which said that Chinese immigrants were illegal aliens by race. I mean, it was a terrible thing, but that was the law. That's the way America worked in the 1870s during the Old West. However, an American citizen of Chinese descent, whose parents were subjects of the Emperor of Japan, was denied entry when he visited Japan and came back on a ship. This case went all the way to the Supreme Court. Now, take into account, that is the Jim Crow Supreme Court. And they read it just outrightly. That person is under the jurisdiction of the United States, born on the soil, does not come under the Chinese Exclusion Act, and is a citizen of the United States. And there you are. So their interpretation of the 14th Amendment is false. I mean, it's falsified by the discussion of the framers of that particular amendment on the floor of the House and Senate, and that discussion was actually entered into the official record. Now, we have a Supreme Court now that's run by Roberts, who thinks that corporations are citizens and should be given at least one of our rights, which is the right of free speech, exclusive of any controls, and that corporations don't come under the Commerce Clause, which they ought to, but are full citizens. So who knows what they're going to come up with. However, I do believe if they are any originalists, if Thomas is really an originalist, or Scalia is really an originalist, these are Supreme Court justices, or even Roberts, who claims he's an originalist, to actually read the 14th Amendment and read the discussion that set up the 14th Amendment and read all other jurisprudence within the United States, which says that illegal aliens, legal aliens, everybody who doesn't have diplomatic immunity is under the jurisdiction of the United States when they're sitting on our soil, or else, it doesn't say anything about what their loyalty is or what the parents' loyalty is, or why, if they applied this law to adults, who cares what the loyalty of your parents are? Either you are a citizen or you are not. And they want to take that right away because they want their bureaucrats, hopefully they would control their own bureaucrats, to decide who's a citizen, who's not. I think that is wrong. I'm going to say right now that is wrong. I think that is anti-conservative. I think that's a very ultra-liberal, almost communistic approach toward bureaucracy and citizenship. And I hope that real Republicans will stand up and oppose it. My name is Reed Silverne. The name of this show is Fed Pride. The reason it's called Fed Pride, because I'm a federal worker and proud of it. Thanks.